So we do record these workshops and post them on our website. So if there is some information here that might be useful later on in the next few weeks as you're filling out the application, you can refer to the recording, and then also always reach out to me with any questions. Great. Well, welcome again to Fresh Paint DC, CH's mural program grant workshop. This is our second workshop during the application phase for Fresh Paint DC. So this is an exciting program because with Fresh Paint DC, murals are back at CAH. We had a few years there where we didn't have a solo mural program, and we're happy to be able to introduce Fresh Paint DC to the community and offer that opportunity for muralists in DC who are based in DC. And so this program is a little bit different in structure than some of our past programs, in that we have a partnership with Bids and Main Streets to select wall sites. And this is more of a general mural design program. This is not a graffiti abatement program. This is just about bringing beautiful public art to communities in DC. And so throughout the presentation, you may see some footage or pictures of some past murals, and you can view all of DC's public art collection on our eMuseum website. So this is a really beautiful mural in Adams Morgan by Moz Paz titled Mother Earth Hugs Turtle Island. Okay. So the program goals for Fresh Paint are to encourage appreciation for and enjoyment of the arts and humanities by funding local artists to install original murals in accessible public spaces within the district for all to experience. We're creating art projects for DC-based mural artists to collaborate together and to showcase their talent and have arts-related work opportunities in DC to strengthen the district's communities by reflecting place-based identities in the designs of the murals. And this helps foster a sense of communal ownership over that space. You know, the most important thing about public art is the site, especially when murals are concerned. You're bringing a beautiful piece of work to a community that people will see every day as they go about their day. So you want it to reflect those that live close to that wall, and to provide educational opportunities to share culture through public art, which enhances the artistic and humanities talents of the grantee. This is another past mural funded by CAH on H Street in what was called the Allery, long alleyway by the Atlas Theater. This is Power and Strength by Shawnee Shee, honoring Earlene Budd, a local activist. So the application eligibility. This is a request for applicants, an RFA that was published a few weeks ago for mural artists and mural artist teams with experience in exterior mural design and installation. So this is open to individual artists. Artist team is defined within our RFA, and it's just two or more artists working together. This doesn't mean that you operate, as a organization. That a team here is not an organization, it's just artists collaborating, and there has to be one lead artist identified who actually fills in the application. Vanessa, looks like there are some people in the waiting room, if you don't mind admitting them. Thank you. So an individual may submit one application for a funding opportunity on their behalf. So this means if you are an individual, you cannot also be on a team. You can only apply for this opportunity once as an individual artist or a team. More about the eligibility. Artists and lead artists. This is an opportunity for DC artists, DC based artists, DC residents over the age of 18 who have lived in DC for at least 1 year prior to the deadline. So that means that if you are an artist who's not based in DC, you can create an artist team with another DC based artist and apply together. Otherwise, this opportunity is only open to DC residents. Sorry. And individuals. And you must be in good standing with CAH and be able to obtain a certificate of clean hands. The applicant restrictions are more than two artist teams, individuals that will require fiscal agent and organizations, and artists residing outside of the district. So if you are an artist that's not in DC and you are teaming up with an artist who is based in DC, they are the ones who are filling in the application. They will list you in the application, but they are the ones responsible for all the compliance documents. You're just a member of their team. This is another awesome mural in our collection by Miss Shay Love in Blagden Alley called Windswept Mandala. I'll pause there to see if there are any questions so far about eligibility or the program. Okay, great. So this program is divided into 3 stages. Stage 1 is that the period that we're in now, where the application is open in our grant portal. Once the deadline hits, we then move on to the second stage. After the panel reviews the applicants and selects their finalists, and those are presented and approved by our commissioners, then CH will match the finalists with their available walls and determine the budgets for each artist or artist team. So this is important part of Fresh Paint DC. The walls are selected by us and our partners. So when you're applying as an artist, you're just applying with your resume and your past experience. It's not the sort of project where you develop your design and you pick out the site ahead of time. That's only done by the selected and awarded artists. And you would work with the property owner to get approval on your design. And then the third stage is the installation of the mural itself. This is a tentative schedule. So we're in the RFA phase. The deadline is February 23rd for this opportunity. In March is when the selection panel will convene to determine the finalists. In April, those selected finalists will be notified. And should they accept the award, then site matches will be made. May is when it's estimated that you would begin the design phase. And then you have until the end of the fiscal year to install and complete that mural. All murals must be done by the end of FY26. It's another mural in our collection by Aneacon outside of Bohemian Caverns, Resurrection Mural. This just gives you an idea of the broad, scope and range of artists that have worked with CH before. So now I'm going to go through the grant application process. This is very important. CAH is initiating a new grant management system. And so this application is available on Submittable. This is a new system, different than our past grant portal. If you've applied for things before, other organizations, you may be familiar with Submittable. So it's really important that if you haven't started an application yet, to make sure that you're accessing the right portal and the site Submittable. And so you would log into Submittable or either sign in or sign up if you don't have an account already. Read the RFA guidelines, determine whether or not you're eligible, make sure you're applying for the right program. It is the only opportunity on Submittable at this moment, but you want to make sure that you've selected the right thing. Complete the application and make sure you've uploaded all your required documents, double check everything, and submit by 9 p.m. on the deadline, Monday, February 23rd. And if you do submit in time, you'll get a confirmation email from Submittable. Submittable will automatically close the application right at 9 p.m. So it's important that you fill it out ahead of time. If it's 8:58, it may not submit on time. So just want to make sure that you're not working up against the deadline because the application will close automatically right at 9 p.m. So these next few slides will take you through our new program Submittable. So you can find the application on CH's website, the Fresh Paint DC page. Here you can link to the RFA, to Submittable, to other information about the program, important dates, potential award sizes. These are some tips for preparing your application, either before you start or while you're filling it out. We want to make sure that your work samples are recent, high quality samples that showcase your best mural experience. We prefer JPEG files for that. And you want to make sure that each work sample is labeled. There is an image identification table under each work sample. You want to make sure that you fill it in completely so that our panelists have full understanding and all the information around your work samples. And make sure that all your application materials demonstrate your high level of skill and your experience as a muralist. So the portal, this is the homepage of Submittable. This is what it should look like when you click on Submittable. You will scroll down and see the link for Fresh Paint DC, and you will click Apply. That will then take you to the sign in or sign up page. If you have used Submittable in the past, you have an account, you can sign in. If you don't, you would click sign up. Then that will take you to the start of the application. It's important to note that Submittable has a different format than our past portal, and the save draft option is all the way at the bottom. So if you start an application just to review it and you just want to get a sense of the application, but you're not ready to submit just yet, but you want to save your progress, you do have to scroll all the way down, which is in the next few slides, to hit save draft just to make sure so you don't lose any of the progress in the application. So this is the first section, the overview. In gray, there underneath these two sections here, the project name and the project begin and end date. This is what you would input. So the project name is FY26 Fresh Paint DC CH Mural Program. The project begin date is the beginning of fiscal year 26, and the end date is the end of fiscal year 26. So even though this project is done in the spring and the summer, the actual grant work, it is still within the fiscal year. So that's just something to note. And then you would select the other options as they apply. Next section is for request details. Here you put in your artist statement. So this is where you describe your or your artist team's approach to mural making and your experience with large scale exterior work. So, what is your point of view as an artist? Why do you paint murals? Why do you, enjoy public art, and your experience in that work? And it's important to consider the application review and evaluation criteria in your response, because that is what the panelists use to score you. Then you would have your work impact statement. So this is where you describe your artist team's interest in creating a mural in Washington, D.C., and how you think your practice contributes or would contribute to the local mural landscape. Next section is for the applicant profile. So this is where you as an individual, or if you're the lead artist on an artist team, you put in your information here, your information only, your name, your address, your ward, social security number, your email, your phone, and your website if you have one. You would select the applicant discipline. There's only one option for visual arts. And then you would find yourself in the work sample section after filling in all that information. This is, probably the most important part outside from your artist statement and your alignment statement of the application. The work samples are your past experience, murals that you've led yourself, maybe ones you've assisted on, anything that you want the panel to see that best represents you as an artist, your style, your perspective, point of view, all of that. You want to select the top work samples. And you would provide a statement, sort of explaining what the work samples are and why they best represent you and your practice. As an individual, you can do up to 5 work samples, artist teams up to 10. And with an artist team, you want to have, work samples for both artists that you're working with. Below that are for the additional uploads. This is the beginning of our documents. So you have your artist resume and CV. List your 3 professional references here. It's not a requirement to get a letter of recommendation. We're asking just for references, but if you do get a letter, you can add that as a support material. Another thing that's great about support materials is if there's been any reviews on your work, any articles, anything showcasing it, if you have professional letters of recommendation or anything else that you think would put more context for your work samples or just more evidence of your experience as an artist, you would upload all of that as a support material. And the panelists can consider it when reviewing your application. The next section is for compliance documents. So these are required for all CAH applications. So we're asking for a W-9, and that is the March 2024 version. On our website, there's a resources page that links to either fillable PDF versions of all these forms or other sites that help you get, your clean hands, other things like that. So if you, don't have a W-9, it's fine. You can download from our website. If you've never gotten a clean hands, you can find the instructions here and it will lead you to My Tax DC. We want to make all these available so that you can just access them on our website, fill them in, and then upload. Something that is different in this application, we're asking just for a quote for an insurance policy, or if you do have a old COI to put that on here, certificate of insurance. We're not asking you to purchase any policies, but just to show like a quote for general liability insurance for the year. If and only you're awarded, would you then have to actually purchase that policy? And the statement certification and artist copyright form are also available on our website. And then the next step is to apply or submit. So all the way at the end, if you've reviewed everything, the work samples look good, you can open all the attachments, everything's filled in, and you're confident with your application, you would hit apply. If you have only made answered a few things, you want to save your progress, go back to it, you would hit save draft. And just a reminder, like I said, to submit and apply before the deadline, before 9 p.m., because submittable will automatically close your application right at 9 p.m. on the deadline. So I know that was a little quick. I can pause if there are any questions or maybe there's something in the chat.
Yes, there are a number of questions in the chat. If people will unmute themselves, ask accordingly.
I was wondering if the selection panel is going to be considering portfolio pieces as well, or only the submitted work.
What do you mean by portfolio pieces?
Portfolio pieces, when we submit our artist resume, our CV, we also have a body of work that comes with that. So I was wondering if that will be considered as well in the applicant.
So the review panel is sort of restricted to what's in the application. So if your portfolio is a part of your website and you click put your website link, then they would be able to view it. If you have additional examples of your work that are part of your support materials, they would be able to view that there. They're only scoring your work samples though. So it can give them a full impression, of all the works that you've done, but the ones that you submit for your work sample, should be your best representation. But if the rest of your portfolio or other work that you've done is available to view, on your website, or if you have like a PDF that you can upload, that's great too. But it's best to select as the work samples the sort of top representation, because that is what the panel will actually score.
Thank you.
Joshua Peacock has his hands raised.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering, is the submittable process only for artists, or is it for folks who want to donate wall space as well?
Okay, great question. So at this time, it's only for artists. We are still working on how to accept requests for wall spaces for this year. This is, the pilot year of this program, and we are already working with our bid and Main Street partners to select walls. So, if you represent an organization or you're a property owner that would like a mural on your space, you can email me and we can, start those discussions. But the submittable application is just for interested artist applicants.
Okay, thank you.
Pabloma has a question that she dropped in the chat. Pabloma.
Yes, I was wondering if you could submit public artworks or installations that are not murals, because I'm an interdisciplinary artist and a lot of my strong pieces are not necessarily murals.
Sure. Do you mean by public artworks, works on walls? Maybe it's something that's like adhered to a wall, or you're referencing sculptures or other projects?
I just mean installations in general that have been also temporary or like, yeah, large sculptures.
Sure. Um, So it would be up to you to decide whether or not you felt that that was a relevant work sample to this program. This is a mural program, so primarily we're looking for that mural experience. There are many different types of murals and different ways to create murals and mount murals. So if you're an artist who works in like a three-dimensional way, for example, and not just a traditional painted mural, that would be something that you would explain within your artist statement and your alignment statement, and really let the panel know, hey, this is my style, this is the way I do things. And then your work samples should reflect that. But I wouldn't say that sculptures or other temporary public art installations are necessarily the right, experience, but it's up to you as the applicant, and then the reviewers to decide.
And how about large paintings? Because I've made like really large paintings, but they're on a canvas. Would that
Sure.
be applicable?
So we do look mostly for exterior mural works just because that is the nature of the walls that we get, and it is a different material than a canvas or even an interior wall. So you would want to, just again decide whether or not that best represents, maybe it's your painting style, and it's something that you've done on canvas, so you would want to really explain that. But we are looking for people with large scale exterior mural experience.
George has his hand raised. George?
Thank you, Vanessa, because I can't see the chat as I'm presenting.
Understood. Yes.
Hey, how's it going? I just wanted to make sure I understood everything correctly. So if you're a resident of Maryland or Virginia, you are not eligible to apply as a single artist to this. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then if you're applying as a team, the lead artist needs to be a resident of Washington, D.C., and then the additional artist could potentially be a resident of Maryland or Virginia.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, I actually found out about this through a friend of mine who's assisted me with a number of mural projects, but they're a resident of Washington, D.C., but I am not. And I'm technically the more experienced team member, and I'm the one that would kind of have the portfolio where I've led projects to present. Is that something that kind of goes against the format of what you're looking for, or do you think it would still be a good idea for us to apply if that's the situation?
Yeah, that doesn't go against, the criteria, and it would just be something you'd have to make really explicit in the application.
Gotcha.
So your assistant is applying as the DC resident. They're the ones that are eligible to receive the grant and the funds. And you are their team member, and you would be identified, as the more experienced artist, the one who would potentially lead, the design phase or the actual installation. But then also explain, how you're working together as a team,
Mhm.
even though, your experiences might be on different levels. You want to let the panel know too how you would work together as a team.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Augie has his hand raised, and then Salvador has something in the chat. So, Augie?
Yes. One of my questions was actually a follow-up to George's last question. So can two people be a team and that's solely it, or is it more than two people on a team?
We define artist team as two artists.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And, that would be the two artists who are working on the design and the application. Of course, we know that murals take a team to complete. So that doesn't refer to anyone you might, hire as an assistant or something like that while you're actually painting. Those people are not, part of your artist team as far as the application goes. So they're not listed. So a lot of people, have assistants or they mentor people who actually help with the installation. That's separate than your teammate.
All right. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Salvador has a question in the chat. Salvador?
Hi, how are you doing? I think my question was along the lines of Paloma's question. And yeah, I was wondering, I do like a lot of large scale art pieces, but not a lot of public
Sorry,
facing
one
work.
moment. I think there's
This actually goes
if
back to what
UMS
we
could
talked about
mute.
in
There you go.
Thank you. Sorry, Salvador, can you repeat the beginning of your question?
Absolutely. My question was along the lines of what Paloma brought up. I do a lot of large scale art. And I have one public facing mural that I have in my portfolio that would be part of my work sample. So I was wondering if it's, even worth it to take the time to apply if, most of my work it's not necessarily public facing. Just one of those would be, one or two of those. But they're mostly all like very, very large scale pieces.
Sure. And by public facing, you mean just outdoor exterior in the public?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. And so, if you have indoor experience with, large scale paintings, maybe it's a hallway or a wall or something like that, or school, those can be a representation of, your artist style, your practice as a muralist. So, I can't really answer whether or not it's still worth it to apply. I encourage everyone to apply. And it's just up to you to decide if that is the best representation of in for your work sample, and then to maybe just, describe like, oh, I have this experience. But maybe you're looking to try the next step, and go to exterior murals. It would be, up to you to decide whether it's worth it, but that generally the experience we're looking for is large scale exterior mural works. As I mentioned, this is the first year of this program, so there's not a ton of like technical assistance as some of our other programs. So the grantee would really have to sort of be able to manage on their own this type of, potentially large mural project. So that's why we're looking for that type of experience.
All right, sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Were there? Oh yeah.
Are there questions in the chat? If anyone else has questions, could either ask aloud or drop in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just going to go through the review criteria now before our next pause. So as I mentioned, we assemble a panel review to score and decide all of our finalists. That is the case with every CAH grant. All of our grants are decided by panel review. So before applications are handed over to panelists, they are vetted for that they, meet the right eligibility, that your work samples are your work, original creativity, and show uniqueness demonstrated in your past projects, that it's a high quality craftsmanship and demonstrates the experience of large scale exterior mural works. So the criteria is as follows. 40% of your score comes from the artistic content. That's why the work samples are so important, and your support materials and your statement, all of these things, because this reflects the artistic content that the panel will score you for. So they're reading your application materials, they're looking that you have the experience of site-specific large-scale exterior works, and that you have the ability, this is your own artistic aesthetic, and that you can take on a Fresh Paint DC project. The next is community engagement and impact. Public art is all about where it sits in the public. So if your past works deal with community engagement and impact, that is something that they're looking for. And that can be, within the design, like who was the mural about or what story did it tell? So we're looking to see artists that, work with diverse communities, or their work is specific to a certain culture, ethnic, or economic background, and those residents of the community where it is, that your previous projects speak to, certain themes that are meaningful, any sort of collaborative process that you may have had. If you did a community mural where the community members helped paint, something like that could be included. And that, overall your work samples demonstrates a commitment to the district and dedicating to enhancing the district's mural landscape. I will say that while the applicant needs to be based in DC, and it's great for your murals to also be in DC, we know that muralists travel the world to do murals. So if you have works that have taken place outside of the district, those also qualify for work samples. So it's not restricted just to district projects, but of course, this is CAH, so we like to see that. But if you've done murals anywhere else, those also qualify. The next section is looking at your capacity and sustainability. So capacity means your previous experience in management. Within the work samples, when you upload and the image identification table, budget is asked, size of the wall, location. These are the things that determine your capacity to take on a fresh paint DC project. So what, have you worked with similar size budgets and potentially similar size walls? I know the walls are not included in the RFA, but typically they're pretty large scale. You can look through our e-museum to see some of the past buildings. So we're just trying to look to see, what has your experience been as far as, the size of a budget that you had, the size of the wall, and the material. And then lastly, we looked at opportunity and equity. What sort of opportunity and equity were created by you painting these murals, especially in the site that you did. And does your practice in general create more opportunity and equity for others? Do you mentor artists? Do you work with emerging artists? All these types of things can be represented in your work samples and explained, and then the panels will score that section. And this is another one of our past murals. That's an Anacostia by the Busboys and Poets by Candace Taylor in support of the Crown Act. It's called Pass the Crown. Okay, so I will stop sharing here and open up again for any new questions or follow-up questions that anyone might have. Okay. And if you think of something later, you can email me. I am available for one-on-one grant assistance until the deadline. That grant assistance means that I can help you with the application as far as completing it. I don't, give feedback or pre-score or prejudge anyone's applications, but just letting you know, yes, this is the right answer here, or you want to put, your work samples here, or maybe that should be a support material. And I hope that everyone fills out an application and applies. We do have a small number of walls this year, and it is a competitive grant. But I don't think that should discourage anyone. And, as the years go forward, we hope to just continue to grow this program. So it's a really cool opportunity to kind of be the first cohort of muralists. So I really, really encourage everyone to apply.
Deirdre, will we get recordings of this workshop in the email?
So the recordings are posted on our website.
Okay, right.
They don't get sent, directly to the attendees, but it will be posted on our website.
Thank you.
And the previous workshop, the first one, might already be linked on there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Craig has his hand raised. Craig?
Hi. How competitive is the wall selection process?
The wall selection this year, we're working with bids and Main Streets to select those walls. So there is not a competition or an application for it. And we haven't set up, that sort of mechanism. But we do, if you're a property owner or organization that has an interest in bringing a mural into your community, you can reach out to me. We can sort of discuss that process, but there is not a competitive, grant process for that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And it's just also determined on our capacity and budget of the year, how many murals we actually are able to fund. Okay, well, it's around 2:45. I can keep the meeting open for another couple of minutes if for some reason you think of something later. And if not, again, you can always email me. I'm going to stop the recording, but thank you so much for attending Fresh Plate DC workshop. And please apply. And if you, for some reason, think that, maybe this year is not the year you want to apply, but another really great DC muralist, please share this opportunity with them so that they may apply. And if you have mural experience, maybe you're not in DC or you couldn't join an artist team, but you'd want to be a panelist, that's extremely important part of the process. And it also gives you sort of a behind the scenes perspective on the application. And so if you're interested in being a panelist, you can also reach out to me. I'll be selecting the review panel in the next few weeks, and panelists are rewarded with a small gift card. Thank you again, everyone.
Thank you.